speaker in line, and that is Henrik. How are you, and where are you?
Hello, I'm just fine, thank you. I'm based in Stockholm, so I'm working out of my home here today. So I
Yes,
hope you can
so
hear
you're
me well
basically
also.
next door to us.
Yeah, yeah.
So nice to
Your
meet you,
friendly
and
neighbor.
yeah, neighbor,
Mm,
friendly neighbor.
mm.
Anyways, so we are going to hear a lot about event API products, which is an actually really interesting topic, and maybe a quite new topic. So are you ready? Your slides are ready.
Yeah, well, I think we're ready. So
Yeah,
just give me
great.
the
So
signal.
take.
Yes, hello and welcome to this short presentation on Event API products. Today, I hope my intent is that you, after this presentation, will know a little bit better what an Event API product is. We have had a lot of presentations already on API products, so I want to sort of expand that and explain a little bit about sort of Event APIs and what sort of goes into API products to sort of cover that aspect of it as well. So I'm here today representing Solace. So Solace is working in the space of event-driven architecture, has been doing so for a long time. And I will focus a little bit in the end on one of the products that they have that can be used to design and manage event API products. So in short, then the agenda is just a short explanation of what an event API product is, how we go about typically, like in a holistic manner, to creating these products, and then finally, then how we can implement API products using this tool Event Portal. Then, so what are API products? I will not be lengthy about this. This is something that has been well covered by previous presenters already. But just to recap here after lunch, so API products basically are a bundling of APIs. It could be as a single API, but a bundling that sort of makes sense from a business serving perspective, right? So that kind of bundling to enable you to sort of make sense of it as a customer or user of this. And these are then typically produced by the organization and put on some kind of developer portal with corresponding high quality documentation, access management, etc. And everything is then typically also managed in a little bit more organized way by potentially a product manager, and you also might have roadmaps and monetization schemes on top of this, right? So that we know already, but what about event-driven APIs? What is different here? And I'm sorry for the lengthy text here. It was citation from Gartner that sort of defined it very lengthy like this. But what it is in short is that it is a let's see, where's my cursor here? Is a push model rather than a pull model. So an API is typically something where you call out to a server. The server has a well-defined API. You put a well-defined query to it, and you get some response after some time, right? An event API is more about, similar to, I would say, a webhook. So you go to a site like, say, Slack, and you want to integrate some third-party application there. Typically, the way you do this is that you provide webhooks, right? So this application will call into one of these endpoints in your Slack host, and that will contain some kind of payload that describes how Slack should interact with this information, right? So this is very efficient. So I can give an example here. Let's say you want to use again Slack then as an example. If you want to use Slack alerting, so if your systems are up and running, nothing should be said. Maybe every day just give some utilization report of the system, but you want to have immediate reporting if this system goes down, right? So one way of doing that through a regular synchronous API or regular API is to continuously poll this API, right? But it is in this push model, instead of like you calling them and asking, is the system okay? Is the system okay? you instead get a signal from them. Somebody calls you when the system is not okay, which is then like an event-based way of communicating. So typically much more efficient in the overhead of doing this, right? But in working with this kind of thing, there is an architectural sort of change in how you do these things, right? So now you must position like yourself to not only do you have APIs, but you also have these asynchronous APIs to deal with, right? So how are you going to do that? And also we have to do it in the same time, because typically we'll have not only APIs, these REST APIs here, but you will have also asynchronous APIs that are part of the same API, really. So the taxonomy, like I have my REST APIs, which are regular APIs, and I have my synchronous APIs, not really useful for the customer in there, right? They just want to like place an order in the, like in this example, and then the system responds with a confirmation order here. So this is the typical REST calls you would have here. So that is like a typical like a command response kind of thing. But following that, what you typically want is like, I want some updates flowing, but I don't want to call and ask you all of them, what is the shipping update on this? I want you to sort of call me as soon as there is a change. Like I get a notification on my phone or get an email when there's a change to my order. I don't want to sort of be refreshing a status page all the time, right? So you need both of these types of APIs really to sort of deliver the maximum value to the customer. But then on the back-end side of this, like how is this then managed by the order management application here then? Well, that application typically is dependent upon a number of down or upstream, I would say then, services like the inventory and the shipping and the CRM systems could all be providers of information that ultimately the customer is interested in, but it only goes through the order management application, which then sort of coordinates all of this, right? So in messaging situations, and you typically have a middleware called an event broker or a message broker, and then this order management application will put a subscription for a specific type of events that it's interested in, right? So here we have drawn it a little bit imprecise, I would say. So typically you put a subscription to the event broker, and the event broker acts as sort of the intermediate between the subscribing application that receives the events and the publishing applications on the far right that publishes this event, right? So here the lines goes directly, but yeah, just to clearly see where the events come from, right? So you subscribe to a topic in the inventory to get some stock allocated events, and these are then published by the inventory application here, and then it's flows down to the order management application asynchronously. And the same thing for the order processed event here that goes from the shipping application and is being sent over here to the order management applications, and then channel forward here as status updates to the customer. So there are multiple different types of status updates applications, right? I think I have to speed up a little bit, cannot talk too much in detail about that. So we want to look into how we can create also these kind of events, right? So we already saw that there are many different types of producers of events in the backend, right? And this is where the things happen originally in the system, right? And then some of these events are then surfaced up as more important here. So in the middle, we have like important business events that we have identified. So there are some order management events in red. There are some warehouse events then in the gray in the middle. And then finally, we have this product catalog and marketing operations also supplying each with one event, right? But then these are consumed by applications then on the right. So for instance, all of the red events there from the order management system and one of these stock allocated events from the warehouse is consumed by a delivery service provider application. And then et cetera, you have more applications like that are consuming then some subsets of the application, of the events, I would say, that is available. So the idea here is then that instead of like just having every application being sort of self-serve and like having this enormous set of applications, events, I mean, to pick from, you instead package them in logical bundles called an API product or an event API product. Then, right? So what we put in the order status API product here is the received, processed, shipped, and stock allocated event. But the stock allocated event is also part of the inventory API product, which has another set of customers, right? So this is how you start then bundling things together. And you might have many consumers or like partners consuming one or several of these API products together. So like a service provider of some kind that might then be interested in one of these products, and you treat them as such as a product, right? And the journey an event takes in the enterprise is that typically all events that start out down here as system events, so like database events or like Kafka events or any kind of like thing that changed in your backend system, right? And then these events are then promoted into enterprise-wide events. So they are sort of visible across multiple domains, and everybody in different business domains can sort of discover these through some mechanism as well, right? And then you look at it and see, well, there's some logical structure to some of them. So there's some grouping of them. Some of them are maybe more important than others. So they are then upgraded into some logical components, like an API product, as we're calling them here, right? And then you can then formalize that and export through something similar to Open API specifications. It's called a Sync API. So you can create a specification that completely describes them, the events in this subset, in the order subset, and the inventory and the pricing API products. They're all then exported to a developer portal through this standard of a Sync API. And there are also other standards on top there, like Open API, to sort of contrast this, right? So you see what it's all about. So the steps that goes into this is sort of, you start out by like just discovering here in the bottom, what events do we have here, right, in our enterprise. So you look at all your system events, and most of them might be irrelevant from a business perspective, right? There are technical system events that is only concerning the system itself, maybe some logging information, etc., right? But some of them will seem more important, right? So then we sort of assess the value of these business events, right? And see what makes sense to look at for when you're designing something that potentially has a large business value. And then you curate this and you create like a logical group out of this, and that is what an API product will be, right? And then as the fourth step here, you release it, make it consumable by an external partner or customer, or even internal customers. You can have, if you have a very large enterprise, you will have different lines of businesses that then will be customers of each other, right? And using maybe these API products. And then manage, that means just if you build it, you bought it, I was going to say, but if you built it, you're not responsible for this also, right? And you also get a lot of feedback on this, so you need to iterate on all of these steps in potentially a non-linear order. And key to this is speed. And why do I mean that it's important to have some kind of iteration speed? Well, lean is a very popular methodology, right? So you should always like iterate on things, but also there is some like hard facts that gives us a motivation why we think speed is important. So if we have time on the x-axis and value on the y-axis, this kind of graph is then typical for the value of an event. The knowledge of an event, right, decreases over time. So you can argue about that, but like if you think about it, if this was like information about the stock market, then obviously information about yesterday's stock market, it's omnipresent. It's all over the place in every newspaper. But if you know that 10 microseconds before everybody else, that would basically be like you could bust the bank then, right? So this is what all the automated trading, etc., has been all about, like having the information before everybody else and acting upon it, right? So that's what we want to have a process to create and manage our event API products, and we have seen sort of the steps that goes into this. let's now discuss one of the tools, specifically a tool that Solace has put into the market called the Event Portal. So the Event Portal is a single place where you can go and sort of discover all of your events that you have in various different lines of businesses. You can also see which applications, the lineage between the applications and different events, and that's represented here by the arrows very nicely. So it gives you a very, very like hands-on visual representation of this otherwise like fairly complex abstract thing that is like the events and how they're interacting between different applications, right? And that's just sort of the governance piece of this. We also have, of course, like the runtime component of this would be then like the message broker we saw here, or the event broker, the one that takes care of the events and routes them between potentially many consumers and producers, right? So this pattern pub sub, that means that one publisher can produce information, but there might be many consumers or subscribers to that information, right? Whereas in regular REST, you typically have a server and a client, and you can have many clients potentially, but the information always just goes between the server and to the single client. So then looking back at those 5 steps that we have, like the first step is sort of discovering on system level what kind of events you have. And for that, we have a component of the event portal that is called the discovery. And there you can discover then all the events you have in your existing messaging estate. Specifically, you can do it for Solace and many flavors of Kafka, but it's open source, so you can actually make an own component for any kind of messaging system that you might have. So I would expect to see this also for the most of the public clouds native messaging services. And then you can organize this together into various domains and connect them with schemas, etc. Right? So this is a great way to sort of start if you already have a lot of events in your enterprise. Once you have like the events in there, you can then quickly sort of browse through them through what we call an event catalog. Then you have the name and you have the schemas, and this sort of gives you possibility to sort of that filter on or like assess value of different events, right? Which events should be then present or visible outside maybe our line of business and our system, right? As an exercise. And then when you have made that assessment, you have grouped things together, then you can go to the API product or event API product component of the event portal. There you can select the number of events that you would like them to publish or combine into this API product. And what kind of direction is this a subscribing or publishing channel that the clients would have? Like, are they listening for events or are they sending back information here? Like, maybe if there's a logistic service provider that you're connecting with, maybe you want them to sort of provide you with updates on the shipping, etc. Right? So then they will be a publisher, but other applications might need to be subscribing to information from you instead, right? And this is like a fully managed thing. So we even give you a link here that the customer can use to download the specifications for this specific event API product through async APIs. So in short then, why now? Why event APIs now? Well, we saw the thing about response speed, right? So we want to have events distributed as fast as possible and like get that information as fast as possible. We don't want to be able to pull for information, right? And also distributed systems is becoming very important for enterprises. I read somewhere, Gartner maybe, that 30% of all enterprises in 2022 are doing an EDA, strategic EDA projects. So this is becoming like a big thing in the industry to work with the distributed systems and in asynchronous ways. And it gives, it ties in well also, like if you have a large organization, like how are you going to govern this, right? So then the whole framework of API products sort of ties in well with also with events. It's just that some important but still technical details how you sort of mesh these two together of like synchronous and asynchronous APIs. But yeah, there are different components of the same thing, I would say. And also we're seeing like there is some actual tooling around this now. So you don't have to do this in like Word documents or PowerPoint documents or any kind of other ad hoc systems you might have done. Now you have actually really good tools like the one Solace as there for event portal, for instance. And that is it, what I had today on event API products. And if you think this is interesting, you can reach out to me and we can have then more lengthy discussions on this and see what's in the space of possible to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrik. And just as I thought that there are no questions to you, then the audience kind of blew up with questions. So there's a question: can this system integrate with existing event queue implementations, for example, messaging queue, Kafka, DB queue, even in memory queue?
Yeah, so it's not trivial always to integrate between different kinds of systems, right? But in the case of messaging technology, there is a lot of need already to communicate between different types of messaging systems, and this glue between them are typically called like a connector. So for Kafka, there's a very large space of connectors that you can connect Kafka to many things through there. And also for Solace, we also have a lot of different connectors. It happens though that Solace also has many ways to natively integrate with cloud native, especially because the broker has a feature that it can communicate directly with REST endpoints. So you can actually deliver events from the broker directly to a cloud service that's consuming then a regular REST API.
Yeah. So Uwe wants to know, how would PubSub work in collaboration with API management systems like MuleSoft, WSO2, etc.?
I know that they are all of these players we have collaboration with, right? So I think we're trying to show them. We're very proud of the event portal, of course, and we think that we can provide advanced users with the features they need. But we are hoping and we're seeing that a lot of our API partners, which has more mature products than event portal, will pick up on this asynchronous API aspects also, right? And this event management and event brokers will be part of that, be just as important as regular REST APIs. So yeah, we're seeing that this technology will probably cross-pollinate between them, and it will work just fine in a couple of years, right? So right now you might have to sort of live with having some kind of dual tech solution for it, and maybe integrate between them. But I will think that in the future most of these solutions will be fully featured.
I could expect that there's a similar kind of development that was with GraphQL APIs, that before there wasn't anything for them to be kind of managed and exposed properly and documented, and then there was GraphQL specific ones, and then they were kind of integrated into the REST, used to be REST API gateways and management products. So interesting to see the development here. Hey, thank you a lot for coming. Tack, Henrik. Hope to see you again in the next events, and then we'll move on to the next